Last year, I was renting a house in a small, economically depressed old mining town in Appalachia. I lived alone. On one of those first warm nights of spring, I awoke around 4 a.m. to the sound of the doorknob turning. I figured someone must have the wrong address, but it kept turning, persistently. I didn't have a peephole or a window to see who was outside, so I just approached the door from inside and yelled, "Wrong place, buddy." Then the door started shaking violently, and a hand began punching it. I tried one last time. "Wrong place, go away, man." Someone on the other side growled at me and started making horrifying noises, like a wild animal. I grabbed a kitchen knife and called the police. Then I waited inside. About 10 minutes later, there was a knock on the door. I opened it cautiously to see an officer who questioned me about the incident. Then he asked me to close it again and remain inside. Again, I couldn't see what was happening out there, so I just turned out the lights and waited quietly, with a knife in my hand. For about 20 minutes, there was just nothing but silence. Then, out of nowhere, my living room window screen started to get pushed inside, and the curtain started to move. The guy was pushing out the screen and trying to climb inside. I held up the knife and yelled, "I'm gonna kill you," in my most threatening voice possible. Thankfully, I immediately heard, "Get on the ground, show me those hands." Heard another horrible wail from outside as the guy was presumably tackled and taken to a police car. A few minutes later, another knock on the door. The officer was back to tell me that the suspect had been captured. This guy was a uniformed cop, but he was visibly trembling and super pale. I still hadn't seen what the intruder looked like. The next day, I ran into the officer while he was off duty. It's a small town. He told me that the suspect had told him his name was Jason Voorhees, probably a meth addict or some type of drug user. Those habits don't go well with delusions involving slasher film characters. Glad it's over. I was 14 when this happened. It was an average night, around 9 p.m. Me and my little cousin are at his house. I'm babysitting for the night, while my mom and aunt are shopping, and my dad and uncle are at the movie theater. So we're sitting there, and for some strange reason, I had a really weird feeling. Something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So I just kept watching TV with my cousin. But the feeling wasn't going away. So I got up and walked to the back door to lock it. When I came back through the kitchen, I saw what was causing my weird feeling. In the window was a very decrepit and homeless-looking man, just staring into the window, looking at my cousin. Protective mode turned on. I pretended like I didn't see the guy and told my little cousin that we needed to go upstairs because our parents would be home soon, and they wouldn't want him to be staying up so late. So I went upstairs and put him to bed, knowing damn well there was a man outside that wanted to come in. I was about 125 pounds at the time and 5'8", and I played football for my school. If I remember correctly, I went downstairs and straight into the kitchen, and I grabbed one of those meat tenderizing hammers. Turned back to the window where I saw him before. Not there. I ran back to the front door and checked that it was locked. Both the deadbolt and the knob were locked. Ran back upstairs with my meat tenderizer and went into my cousin's room and sat down in front of the door. He asked me what I was doing, and I said that he didn't need to worry about it and that he should keep his head low. I called the cops, and then I called my dad and uncle. Cops would take about half an hour, and my dad and uncle were about 45 minutes away. Then I hear a window shatter and the sound of heavy boots walking around on the main floor. I told my cousin to stay calm, hide under the covers, and to keep silent. I could hear the guy walking around downstairs. It was horrifying. I gripped that damn meat tenderizer and I waited. About 5 minutes passed, and then I heard the boots walking up the stairs. At this point, I was having a freaking heart attack. My cousin's door is no more than 10 feet from the stairs. I heard him opening the doors to my aunt and uncle's room, then the bathroom. He walked back downstairs, and I heard him open the door to the basement. 15 minutes later, the police show up and burst into the house. Turned out, the guy was loose from a mental hospital, one province away. This happened over a decade ago when I was 12 years old. I live in a small town in Oklahoma, and in my neighborhood, the houses are fairly spread apart, separated by woods. It was a school day, so my grandma picked me up from school and brought me home. This was the first year I got dropped off at my house alone. Before this, I would just normally go to my grandma's house after school. I would get dropped off around 3 p.m., and my parents would be home around 4:30. Not that big of a deal. Today, for some reason, though, my dad wasn't going to be home until later, around 7. And my mom, a teacher, wouldn't be home until around 8 because she had parent-teacher conferences at the school. This happened in early fall, so it wouldn't be dark until like 8:30 p.m. I did what I usually do when I got home, ran upstairs, got on my Xbox 360, and played Minecraft with my friends. Today it was just me and my friend Seth. I was playing for about 2 hours when I heard a car shut in my driveway. No one should have been here until like 7. My house is set up to where my upstairs has windows that overlook my driveway. So with my mic on and controller in hand, I went to the window to see who it was. Maybe my dad got home earlier than expected. I looked outside. It was a red truck. No one I know drives a red truck. The person pulled into the middle of the driveway, sideways, like he owned the place. When I looked out the window, I saw a man with a hat, wearing a big camo hoodie and jeans. It was September, so no one should have been wearing a big hoodie and jeans in Oklahoma. By the time I looked, he was already almost out of view, going up my walkway to my front door. I thought maybe it was one of my dad's friends, or someone my dad hired to do something, but he would usually tell me if someone was going to come over and give me a heads up. Soon after, I hear a knock at the door, then another. I go to my other window that has a better view of the walkway up to my front door. I see the guy walking back down the walkway. I switch and go back to looking through the windows overlooking my driveway. I'm relaying all of this to Seth, still with a mic on. I tell Seth that he's walking back to his truck now. But instead, he walks past his truck and he tries to open up the garage side door. At this point, my heart sinks. I tell Seth that this guy just tried to get into my house. Mind you, it's literally broad daylight at like 5 p.m. where we live. Luckily, it was locked, because sometimes we do forget to lock it. After he tried the door, he starts walking to my back patio. At this point, I drop my headset and I quietly run downstairs to see what he's doing. I get downstairs and stand behind the wall, so I'm not visible from the back door living room windows. I just listen. I hear him try to open the door. Then I hear a thud. It sounded like he dropped a brick on the ground or something. At this point, I'm more scared than I've ever been. I wanted to call my parents or grandma, but I didn't have a cell phone yet. The only phone in the house was in the kitchen. I would have to cross my living room to get there, and he'd be able to see me through the windows if I went that way. A few seconds after the thud, I peeked around the corner, and he was gone. I ran back upstairs and put my headset back on, telling Seth that he just tried to open the back door as well. As I'm telling him this, I hear a car door shut. This time when I look out the window, he finally got in his truck. I looked at the truck closer, and I noticed the only thing he has in his truck bed was a crowbar and shovel. He sat in his truck for what felt like a few minutes. During this time, Seth told me to get out my iPod and take a picture of the license plate, but he was parked so where I couldn't see it. Then he drove backwards out of my driveway and down the road. A few minutes after he was confirmed gone, I went downstairs to see what the thud could have been. I get to the back door and see that the back door mat was moved. Both big plant pots had been moved as well. He was looking for a key. Holy, we have a hidden key back there too. The key to the back door was under one of the smaller plant pots on the ledge near the door, not the bigger ones that he had checked under. I went to the front porch and all the pots looked like they had been moved too. I don't know what I would have done if he was able to find the key or if he just broke in. After he left, I called my dad and told him what happened. When my dad got home, he had a cop come over and I told him what happened and gave a description. The guy never came back. About 2 weeks ago, my depression was kicking my butt, so I decided to cancel my evening plans and just lie down for a nap. Shortly after sunset, I heard loud pounding on the front door, alternating with rapid doorbell ringing. In the back of my head, I thought UPS was being overly aggressive, but I still felt like crap, so I ignored the noise. About 10 minutes later, I heard a loud thump in the kitchen and assumed my cat had knocked something over. I got up from my bed and was about to open the door to the bedroom when I saw beams from a flashlight underneath the door. I called out, "Hello?" and the light disappeared. I walked into the kitchen and noticed the door was still locked but ajar, and my cat was standing at the top of the basement steps, looking down into the darkness. At that point, I received notification from my partner, who was out of the state for work, that something had tripped the motion sensor camera in the kitchen. 2 men had broken into the house, and it was unclear where they had gone once they went back out of the kitchen door. I called 911, and 5 officers and a canine unit were at the house within minutes. They sent the dog into the basement and didn't find anybody. The would-be burglars hadn't had enough time to take anything. Maybe just my sense of security. But it wasn't until I was telling my coworkers the story the next day that it really started to hit me how much worse it could have been. November sucked for me this year. I'm so grateful that it's a new day. Finally a new month.